After the last couple of months and after 8 entire videos, I could finally take a breath and proudly say to myself that I've finally seen everything. I felt proud of myself for not having given up, for seeing the arduous journey through to the bitter end. It got hard. People called me a fraud for never having seen them all, but now I can proudly stand atop the dynasty of my own creation and finally declare I have seen everything Dragon Ball has ever made. That is until reality slapped me and screamed into my face.
But wait! There's more!
And there most definitely is more. 5 more, in fact. Today, we will be finally putting the last stamp and posting the last reviews for these old Dragon Ball TV specials and OVAs. Today, we will be taking a look at Plan to Eradicate the Saiyans from 1993 and 2010, episode of Bardock from 2011, Dream 9 Torico, One Piece, and DBZ Super collaboration crossover from 2013, which, let's face it, is probably the most catchy title to date, and finally, Son Goku and his friends return from 2008. Let's get this show on the road so I can finally relax. First one up, Son Goku and his friends return. Release date September 21st, 2008. Length approximately 35 minutes. And the concept of this story was written by Akira Toriyama. The story itself takes place roughly 2 years after the events of Dragon Ball Z, but before Dragon Ball Super. So let's get into it. I actually really enjoyed this for what it was. It's a simple story not meant to be taken super seriously. It's lighthearted in tone and delivers pretty much on that premise. The OVA itself features an entirely reanimated opening sequence with the classic Dragon Ball Z theme song, Chala Head Chala. The best things about this reanimated opening are pretty much the selling point of this entire OVA short story. Nostalgia. The OP is reanimated entirely but is intentionally storyboarded to match the classic version, complete with an updated cast of characters post-Buu Saga. The story itself begins proper as 2 space pods are seen making their way towards Earth before we catch up with Goku and his friends as they go about their day-to-day lives. It's revealed that Mr. Satan will be throwing a small get-together for those that helped defeat Majin Buu to celebrate the opening of his new hotel. Goku isn't exactly sold on the idea of attending until Gohan himself says that there will be an all-you-can-eat section for Goku personally. Goku then decides it's a worthwhile event to attend. This is hilarious because someone liking food is funny in anime. And so we cut to the party where we meet the rest of the classic cast, including Trunks, Piccolo, and Vegeta, among others. It's at this point we are introduced to Vegeta's little brother, Tarble. Now, I don't like Tarble. I think he's a terrible idea. Personally, I think he creates more problems for the series than is needed. I get that this is a bit of fun, and it is fun, but Tarble is relentless in his insistence on being canon despite us all trying our best to forget about him. But we can't forget about him because he's mentioned in passing more than literally any other character in this series with comparable screen time. Regardless, he makes his debut in this short story as he arrives to warn the gang of some enemies coming, and Goku uses this as an opportunity to show him Super Saiyan. The visual style itself is something that also has been updated since the end of Dragon Ball GT, featuring Tadayoshi Yamamoto's 2008 character designs. My favorite aspect of this aesthetic change has to be its choice of color and minimalist one-tone shading. And that's not to even mention the Super Saiyan color scheme that finally makes the hair emit a mystical golden glow. Aside from that, in the end the group decides amongst themselves who gets to fight the invaders by picking radishes. And ultimately Trunks wins the draw, but Goten gets to join in as he was the runner-up and there are 2 opponents. There's actually some nice animation during this battle sequence and interesting movesets on display to counter the 2 young Saiyans. Ultimately, the story focuses a lot on the lighthearted slice of life side of Dragon Ball, and I honestly really like that. In the end, everyone gets to have their shot against the big bad before ending it all in one nostalgic, upbeat note. It's a very fun, short, and nostalgic look back at the franchise we all grew up with, and I'm sure when it was released, that feeling was even more potent. Next up, Plan to Eradicate the Saiyans from 1993 and 2010, each one having a varied runtime. It's sort of complicated. These were 2 short stories made for different video games, and the newer of the 2 is a modern recreation of sorts. The older one is from 1993 and the newer version is from 2010. Let's check out the old one first. This older version is split into 2 parts and begins with the bad guy stating his motivations to the camera. He hates what the Saiyans have done and thus he wants to eradicate the Saiyans on Earth. We then cut to Earth as Mr. Popo announces to Gohan and Goku that this gas is destroying life on the planet and that within 70 days, even lively beings like themselves would be done for. With this slightly depressing news, they venture to Bulma's whereby they devise a plan to seek out and destroy the source of the gas. However, before they leave, a group of aliens aliens begin to attack, and this is where things start to get a little interesting. Because of the nature of the gas, the ki that Goku and the others use to fight has been rendered useless. Thankfully, they can still punch and kick, but I thought this was interesting because it's in some way in the same vein as the current arc that's being written in the Dragon Ball Super manga implemented by Moro. With that said, the rest of the middle section is spent with Goku, Gohan, and Piccolo all individually going through various parts of Earth and destroying the sources of the gas upon arrival while beating up the grunts defending it. I think this is fun for some decent action scenes, but I think it works perhaps a bit better as a cutscene. At times I felt I was missing some context. For instance, the first scene follows Goku into the mountains as he fails to use his ki. This is followed immediately after by Gohan, who commented that his ki is coming back just like his dad said. I never heard Goku say this, and so it sort of makes me feel like I'm only seeing half of the story. Eventually, future Trunks and Vegeta join the action before all the classic movie and manga villains start to reappear. Frieza, Cooler, Lord Slug, etc. However, fighting the classic villains proves to be a worthless effort, and so King Kai chimes in to inform them that they need to attack the source, a person by the name of Dr. Raichi. There's genuinely some fantastic combat animation in the second half, and it's definitely worth checking out. The story itself climaxes as Goku and the gang finally locate the Doctor and actually get some great hits in, but not before the Doctor takes on his true form and causes some more trouble for the heroes of the story. The design of this Dr. Raichi's final form is okay, I guess, but I'm not totally sold on it either. For some reason, it reminds me of a less cool version of Janemba, but that's a minor criticism at best. They eventually defeat the big bad by hitting him super hard and go lay on the grass for a while. And now the 2010 version. The latest version of this story, ignoring the TFS one, is half the runtime but works a bit better as a story, I guess. While the prior had far superior visuals, I believe, this one doesn't feel like it was missing any part of the story. It didn't feel like I was watching a cutscene but an actual episode of a show. With that said, neither of these felt as good as the TV show itself in my opinion, but neither were that bad either. They both share pretty much the exact same story, but the 1993 version provides more mini-bosses, I guess for lack of a better term, and side quests before combating the big bad at the end. The newer 2010 version is much more streamlined, but features possibly the most unappealing version of the Dragon Ball art style I could envision personally. My eyes are honestly still burning from the super saturated colors. Nothing really feels like it's textured and feels very flat and cheap to me, but it is available in higher resolution, and if you're a fan of this style, then this one is the option for you. I don't really have anything else more to add for this version. It's really just a retelling of the same story, just shorter. The second to last Dragon Ball story I'll be tackling today is the episode of Bardock from 2011. And thankfully, this one is only 20 minutes long, so I guess I don't need to explain very much. Okay, maybe I need to explain a few things. The episode begins as we are acquainted with the closing moments of Bardock, the father of Goku, before throwing us and Bardock into the future where these little purple blob monsters live. They are very annoying. Bardock doesn't really know that he's in the past and finds himself defending this small civilization from evildoers and this weird-looking unitard-wearing Frieza thing. Overall, I'm really not a fan of this style of animation. I think they took a lot of liberties with Bardock's established character from the 90s special, and I think the setting for this entire story is honestly very annoying. I would imagine the impetus for this story was that one of the editors or writers had an idea to make Goku's father the legendary Super Saiyan through insane circumstances. And I'm not saying that can't work. There are ways to make the craziest ideas work, but this certainly wasn't it for me. There's a nice little bit of interesting animation towards the end that I enjoyed, despite, once again, this being my least enjoyable Dragon Ball art style. I think this works best as a poorly executed, high-budget what-if story, but honestly not without its redeemable attributes here and there. If you're bored and feel like some mindless action with an interesting but poorly thought-out concept, my next and last review for this video comes in the form of Dream 9 Torico and One Piece and Dragon Ball Z Super Collaboration Special. God, that's an awful title. And it's the weirdest thing I've ever seen. Now that might sound like hyperbole, but I swear it's not. Buckle up because we're in for one hell of a ride with this one. Alrighty, so this one came out around 2013 and is roughly 47 minutes in length. The special features 3 intellectual properties: Dragon Ball, One Piece, and Torico. Toriko, for the vast majority of those out there, was a relatively recent TV show on Fuji TV. I'm guessing the purpose behind this special was to create a sense that Toriko was on the same level as One Piece and Dragon Ball, which it wasn't. Needless to say, Toriko eventually relinquished the time slot on Fuji TV to what later became Dragon Ball Super's time slot, which ran for 3 years. Now that we know what Toriko is, let's dive into this mess. The story itself starts with a cold open at the International Gourmet Organization's Tastiest Under the Heavens tournament. Yep. The announcer describes what's up to be won, and without describing the rules itself for the tournament, he says begin, and literally everyone in the crowd starts running. Running where? I have no idea. Is it a race? Maybe. It sure looks that way. But there's no time to think, because suddenly an enormous level 40 beetle shows up and creates a massive sinkhole, sucking up 99% of the contestants. Shockingly, however, the contestants remaining are from the 3 IPs supporting this production. And boy howdy are they still running. Once the title drops, eventually the rules are explained. It's a freestyle race that doesn't allow flying, and whomever reaches the stadium in the island's center wins. Okay, so it's a race, but there's shenanigans, sort of? I'm imagining something like wacky races, but without the cars. The remaining runners are suddenly faced with a split 3-way decision. I'm glad they made the decision to make the 3 main characters take the same path, as having them interact, I guess, is the entire point of this production. It also helps focus the 3 separate groups into 3 distinct locations, which adds variety. The special itself follows the other groups with Gohan and Gotenks before eventually arriving back at Goku, Luffy, and Toriko as they summit the mountain. King Kai, however, has bad news for Goku. Apparently some evil has appeared in space. Goku immediately instant transmissions out of there, before later cutting back to Luffy and Toriko as they approach the finishing area. It's at this moment Goku comes rampaging through after having saved the Earth, catching up to both characters with what seems to be relative ease. However, all 3 land at the finishing point at the exact same time. In order to decide the victor, they hold a fighting tournament between Goku, Toriko, and Luffy, with ring out or forfeit being the only ways of elimination. All 3 exchange blows using iconic maneuvers that they are famous for, but it quickly becomes clear that with all 3 having their reputation on the line, none of them are really going to win or lose, and so it ends in a draw. Well, not really a draw. After the final attack between the 3 characters, Mr. Satan is, by pure circumstance, the only one left in the ring. I'm not sure how this works, but I'm not questioning it. He wins, I guess. The second half of the special sees everyone feasting on the main prize that they were all fighting for, a special meat prize. That is, until a monster appears from the water. The monster fish thing absorbs the life force of a number of prominent characters before the big final fight of the special takes place. All 3 fighters and teams join forces to tackle this one big foe. A lot of characters become involved with this. There's a ton of fan service with plenty of team-ups, Super Saiyan 3 power-ups, fusions, and spirit bombs. This is a special entirely dedicated to fan service, and if you're a fan of at least 2 of the 3 shows on display here, I think it could be a fun watch for you. Just don't expect it to have a conclusive victor, because it largely won't. Though I would say that there's a slight bias towards Dragon Ball in this special. And that's it. I'm finally done! There's literally no more! I've spoken about the original Dragon Ball series in my Anatomy of Anime, I reviewed every Dragon Ball movie and completed the OVAs and specials from the past. And my entire channel has been almost exclusively covering Dragon Ball Super. There's not a single thing left. Oh god, no!